Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. It's great having you here today. We're going to be looking at the tropics. Is it ever going to become active out here into the Atlantic, or are we just going to remain quiet? Well, we're going to take a look here. We do have that tropical wave across parts of the Caribbean we're going to be watching over the next several days to week, and it does tend to get caught up here into this old boundary across southern Florida. We'll see if there's any chance that it could make it to the Gulf. We see potential for some of these Cape Verde waves to make it into potential tropical storm or hurricane status as we continue through the end of the month, and some big tropical waves across Central Africa. These could make it into the MDR. Will this translate into an uptick of tropical activity come mid to late September? Let's get into it. Briefly showing you the upper level water vapor, I wanted to show you these orange areas. These are areas of dry air, especially right out ahead of our main system, this tropical wave that just exited or exiting off the coast of Africa here. That's our area of interest. It still could become a storm. However, it is going to be an uphill battle with this kind of dry air. These areas where the tropical waves are existing in moist flow, they're doing okay. But once they get to these pockets of dry air and even some wind shear here, this is where we encounter some issues. And here are the tropics, our GFS, and then I'll show you the European model in just a few minutes here. So this is our first system. I'm going to go over this with what the GFS is showing. Development right around the Cape Verde Islands here as this thing comes off the coast. And through the 13th into the 14th, it does try to spin up. Now, it has a very limited period of time before it reaches the dry air, as I showed you on the upper level and mid-layer water vapor loop. So here it is trying to initialize a low pressure next week, early to midweek, and around that periphery of low pressure, or high pressure, I should say here, with this low pressure coming around the outer periphery. It would tend to suggest that we'll see more of an initial fish storm here. We'll get into this in a second because that's been popping up every couple days. Now, we do have tropical waves. Don't get me wrong. These tropical waves coming off the coast are pretty strong. You can see them heading across Central Africa here as well through the 19th. However, this first system is, once it reaches this location in the Central Atlantic, it's going to be battling a lot of wind shear, vertical wind shear out of the southwest here, and dry air off especially the southern and western periphery of this. So as we continue through time, this starts to get absorbed into the westerlies and more of an extratropical system, where I think it'll have much better shot at an extratropical system as it's absorbed into the cold front rather than a tropical system itself. But here's the Azores. We'll have to watch and see if this impacts right around September 24th and 25th, and then it'll be coming. All right, so the rest of the tropics here, this is what we're looking at. Other than our potential storm we're looking at here, is going to be in a hostile environment. We have a tropical wave moving through the northern Lesser Antilles over the weekend here. It's going to provide some showers and thunderstorms. Obviously, your eyes are drawn to this, and I'll show you the European does show this as well, but not like the GFS does. Look what the GFS starts to do right around the 16th. I am in agreement. We're going to see a surge of tropical moisture eventually heading this direction across the Caribbean into the Gulf. But the GFS is back to its old tricks here with developing this into a storm right around the 17th into the 18th. And as you can see, bringing it up across the Gulf as a potential tropical storm. Definitely not buying this right now. I do think there'll be deep tropical moisture, obviously from Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Honduras, Nicaragua, Belize, all the way up the Yucatan Peninsula, here into eastern Mexico, Cancun, and eventually here into the central and eastern Gulf. However, I'm just not buying the solution of a tropical storm due to the wind shear and the dry air, which I'll show you in several minutes from now, just how much dry air we're working with over here on the modeling. So as we head through the 18th, 19th, 20th, yeah, there's a tropical wave here along the northern coast of Central America. We'll have to watch. It's trying to flare up here. There's some scattered showers here across the eastern Caribbean islands. But for the most part, the intertropical convergence zone, as we go through the end of the month, is going to start to shut down. So our attention is going to draw more to our homegrown systems here in the Western Atlantic. Thanks to Tropical Tidbits for our European model analysis of the tropics here. You can see our little system out here trying to spin up. Yeah, it's actually trying to make some headway here on the European model, so we'll continue to watch. All eyes are on this system. It's too early to say whether this will affect land. As I said before, we have a lot of dry air and some wind shear around, so that's something we'll have to keep an eye on, especially as it progresses west. But it looks like slow development here on the European run, and kind of bringing it in line with the northern Leeward Islands here in Lesser Antilles through September 18th. You see it does start to run around this periphery of high pressure. Another strong tropical wave lining up here southeast of the Cape Verde Islands. That will need to be watched as well as that progresses. So we have a couple systems out here we'll be watching. Also, the Caribbean will watch a few tropical waves moving through. I'll zoom in momentarily to show you what's going on there. So it looks like we're going to have some fish storms lining up here. Nothing too terribly blockbuster-like. You start to see by September 26th, we're starting to wind down out here. Cape Verde season, especially as we head towards the end of September, beginning of October. So then we're going to turn our attention more towards this region, which, with the dry air lately, it hasn't been that explosive or anywhere close to it. So zooming in with our European model, I wanted to show you the rain outlook here. Lesser Antilles, right around Saturday here, we do have a tropical wave moving through the Lesser Antilles here. Island of Hispaniola as well as it's moving through. You can see some shower and thunderstorm action here. Now look what's happening. This is a strong tropical wave right around September 15th and 16th. It will provide Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Nicaragua, Honduras here, and Belize with some rainfall into Tuesday, September 16th into the 17th. Another strong tropical wave moving through the Northeast Caribbean islands here, and there's another tropical wave moving to the Northeast. So yeah, even though there is a lot of wind shear and dry air around, you still see some of these systems trying to crop up. I mean, there's nothing like catching the eye over here, but look at this, September 19th. This is lining up with some of our teleconnections. Looks like things will start to become a little bit more moist here, especially in the Caribbean. You see a smattering of showers and thunderstorm action. Here's our first storm we may be looking at as we go through time here. It's kind of weakening with the wind shear and some dry air on the southwest side here. But you get the idea through the 21st here. It's going to remain more moist than normal up here around Jamaica, Cayman Islands, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and back westward here towards Cancun and all the way down through Belize here. So watch out. Yeah, things are going to get a little bit more active here. Is Trinidad Tobago up to the central Lesser Antilles. September 24th, we're looking at a strong tropical wave moving through the Eastern Caribbean here, you can see. So yeah, things are lining up. Here's another one just on the southeast corner of your screen here. Let's take a look at our upper level dry air analysis here, thanks to Tropical Tidbits. There's our moist flow with our system coming off the Cape Verde Islands. But see these brown areas? This is what I showed you at the beginning of the video with the upper level water vapor loop. Look at all this dry air out ahead of these tropical waves. And we do have a little bit of a moist flow from the Eastern Pacific over here, but look at up here across the Gulf too. This is why it's been so difficult to get any of these storms to form. And you see our system out here, you get these areas of low pressure, our next potential system, this one and this one as well. They're battling a tremendous amount of dry air, and they're going to have a very difficult time surviving. So whether or not, the African flow with this Saharan dust and all this other activity can cease, we're still going to continue to watch this dry air, this upper and mid-layer dry air that's going to continue to kill these storms. And as you can see here on the European model, the GFS spinning up that system there in the Western Caribbean and Gulf, it just doesn't seem to be a very plausible solution considering we just have so much dry air around and some wind shear. Sea surface temperature analysis out here. Yeah, we're warming up around the Cape Verde Islands here. That's been the big fly in the ointment, so to speak here. It's been much cooler than average. Now it's starting to warm up. Look at the Gulf, though. I'm so surprised there hasn't really been anything. Caribbean out here into the central Atlantic as well. We're looking well above average, although it's not near as warm as it was last year. And here we go, rainfall amounts here across the Western Caribbean, Central America. Through this week, the rest of this week into next week, you can see really moistening up here across Belize, 1 to 200 millimeters. across the north coast of Honduras as well. Jamaica, you're right around 50, 60 millimeters. Same with parts of Dominican Republic, Haiti, and the Cayman Islands here. Look at the Bahamas, socked in 125, 150 millimeters. You can see the surge of moisture continues through parts of Central America, where some areas will be approaching 300 millimeters. Jamaica, some of you may eke out close to 100 millimeters. West central parts of Dominican Republic, over 100. And parts of St. Croix over to Puerto Rico, 62, right around 60 millimeters on average. That'll net you about a half to 3/4 of an inch of rain, close to an inch and a quarter in some areas. And here we go with the GFS, Western Caribbean, Central America. Obviously, the GFS continues to try to blow this up into a tropical system. Outside of that area, though, I do agree with a lot of these rainfall amounts. Look at parts of Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cayman Islands, Belize. These areas could be seeing, 100 to 200 millimeters, even parts of western Jamaica upwards of 150 millimeters. Look at west central parts of Dominican Republic up to 250 millimeters. And moving across the Eastern Caribbean here, that tropical wave is going to be affecting us through the central and southern and even the northern Lesser Antilles through about Wednesday of next week. You can see that surge is, we're looking at our tropical systems recurving out here. But yeah, as we go through the end of the month, you can see lots of tropical moisture here, 70, 80, 90, some areas close to 100 millimeters here throughout the Lesser Antilles. Trinidad and Tobago down here, it's looking a little bit less, right around 40, 50, maybe 60 millimeters. As we get into the Eastern Caribbean, you can see a tropical wave moving through the Lesser Antilles here. That looks pretty interesting. Rainfall amounts through the next week will be about 60, 80 millimeters. But as we go through time, yeah, things continue to moisten up here. Some areas may approach 100 millimeters of rainfall. There's Puerto Rico with 3 to 4 inches, especially in western areas. St. Croix right around 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches. Trinidad Tobago, a little lesser down here, 40 to 60, just like on the Euro. All right, so here we are with the HRRR feature radar. You can see as we head into the overnight hours, we got some showers hanging out off the outer banks here. This spin's just going to continue as we see moisture kind of converging from Florida here and then coming from this direction. So there's going to be some area of low pressure that tries to take root here through 8 p.m. on Friday. Now, if we just spin out here, you can see there's not a whole lot of other systems going on. We may actually see a few showers clip northern New York here as we head through 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. But I think the air is going to be so dry. And as we continue through 1 p.m. on Saturday here, this low pressure is trying to take shape. But look at that. Northwest to that line, which is pretty much the whole coastline, except for Central and South Florida where you be getting some rainfall. Yeah, you're going to be socked in with that. But yeah, this rain, unfortunately, we can't get it over here into Ohio where you really do need it. Severe weather for your Friday. Yeah, we're all the way to Friday. Upper plains here into the Intermountain West. The rest of the area is just some generalized thunderstorms. Now, as we head into Saturday, we'll have some generalized thunder. I'm not so sure we're going to get some generalized thunderstorms over here. I'm not so sure why that's expanded to the east, but they're a marginal threat. Eastern Colorado, northeastern New Mexico. Picking up where our feature radar left here. Off here on the GFS, you can see as we head through the 12th, the 13th, there's our system hanging out just off the southeast coast. It looks like this high pressure, although it's a little weird. We have some scattered showers. I don't know how plausible this is heading into the weekend. You see the splash and dashness here? I'm not sure if I'm buying that. Yeah, there's a little bit of a weakness, a trough, but it's sunny skies, sinking air, dry air. Not thinking much is really spinning up here. So as we head through the 15th into the 16th, you can see these showers and thunderstorms continuing just off the southeast coast. Get this little low pressure trying to take shape. It's just going to hang out here. By the 16th, we do start to see some rain across the Outer Banks through Virginia Beach here. It's trying to move up the coast, but this high pressure system is really strong up here across eastern Canada and the northeast. So look at this. We do try to get some development here with this potential system here. And tropical moisture right around Florida. Yeah, as I said in the tropics, we'll even see if this is going to be a thing or not. A little skeptical. But if it does occur and gets into that sea surface temperatures, high sea surface temperature content, we could, in the wind shear and the dry air kind of slackens a little bit. We'll see if we have anything going on here. So something to keep an eye on. And we're going to pick up where our feature radar left off here on the European model. As we continue through the weekend, you can see showers and thunder showers just sitting off the coast here, parts of Florida. It's mainly off the coast of the Carolinas, but it doesn't look like anything's really going to materialize here on the European model, which is really some good news. It's not until about Monday into Tuesday we see some action trying to push ashore both South Carolina, North Carolina with these stiff northeast winds. Look at this high pressure. That's going to push these winds. You can see this low trying to take effect here. Also some mesoscale convective system out here into parts of Kansas. So this is going to start winding up like a coastal system. Of course, this high pressure in the northeast continues to block it, so it's kind of pushed up and over the Appalachians here, some of its moisture. So we'll get some beneficial moisture kicking in through Saturday, September 20th here. And as we continue in time, look at this. We kind of open up the floodgates for tropical moisture all the way back in through parts of the Tennessee River Valley here. Unfortunately, for my viewers up here in Ohio, it's really hard pressed to get anything. September 22nd, look at this. This starts to take on more of a coastal storm characteristics as it moves up through the mid-Atlantic into parts of the Northeast. By the 23rd into the 24th, you can see showers and thunderstorms moving up across this region. Wednesday, the 24th, look at this. What a big old mess, but that is some good news for the Ohio Valley, Eastern Great Lakes, where it's been so dry as of late. This is pivoting through. It could be some severe weather. It's a very dynamical system here as it pushes through. Here's our last frame. Watching a little storminess here in the western Gulf off the southeast coast and some storminess here into the southern and central plains. And precipitation amounts here on our European run. There's not a whole lot to speak of the next week or so. It's not until we get into that third week, close to the last week of September here. Look at this. Yeah, we're bubbling up some heavy rain across the Carolinas, even 3/4 to 1 inch across the Ohio River Valley up here, parts of eastern Pennsylvania, some areas, look at this, getting upwards of 4 inches with some of these this coastal low that tries to take shape. Look at South Carolina, really socked in here, close to 4, 5, 6 inches. Outer Banks, you're right around an inch or two here. So yeah, you get the idea. And here we go for the GFS. Precipitation amounts, South Florida there. Look at that. Up the East Coast, that's going to be the trend. Wow. Look at that for right around the 25th into the 26th. GFS going crazy with some kind of a coastal low up here. Well, that's too far out to even get into 8 inches in Maine. Not sure I'm buying that. Look at here into Florida, though. Yeah, obviously the GFS showing a potential tropical system up across the eastern Gulf. We'll keep an eye on it, but I'm not really buying it. But outside of that, you know, some areas of Florida could be seeing 3 to 6 inches of rain. GFS going pessimistic here for the Ohio Valley with lesser, about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch rather than the Europeans' higher amounts. Continuing with more weather coverage, you made it this far in the video and you like it, please smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I love to respond and read them. And don't forget, subscribe, bell notification button. Let's surge to 30,000 subscribers. I just hit 20K a couple weeks ago. And let's continue with more weather coverage. Upper air pattern for North America. You can see that troughiness just sitting off the southeast coast. High pressure really dominating, though, eastern North America as we head through next week. You can see that low just kind of progresses this little cutoff trough into the Gulf Coast states. And then that ridge just kind of... Look at this, though. We do start to get a full-fledged trough by around the 25th of September. This is coordinating well with our MJO Index and our NAO Index. Becoming a little more stormy here across the east as we head late September. NAO Index is staying negative, slightly negative. We'll be going more towards neutral come later September, early October. Our MJO Index looks like this. Yeah, we're right in phase 3, very quiet. It looks like things may try to change here. We may be heading towards phase 8 and 1. That would be explosive storminess come later September into early October. So what's going on here in the Western Pacific? Not too much. It's actually pretty clear as a bell here. Even the Philippines are not getting the rainfall initially here that they should be getting this time of year. Even Japan looks pretty quiet up to Seoul, South Korea, Tokyo, Japan, Shanghai, China, Hong Kong, Philippines, all the way through the 16th, 17th, 18th. You can see this tropical, well, actually, you don't want to call it tropical. This is synoptic flow right in through here. So yeah, it does start to get these areas of low pressure kicking through Japan. Philippines look really clear here through South China. And as we continue through the 20th here, ultimately you can see, yeah, things remain very stormy up here across parts of eastern Asia, all the way through South Korea and Japan. These are all synoptic lows, and it almost looks like the tropics just completely die here. Now, we do have a few tropical waves lining up here that we'll keep a very close watch on. And if we look a little bit beyond the 20th here, we do start to see a little bit of evidence we may try to see some tropical development here. Look at Japan, though. This is what I wanted to show you. 22nd into the 23rd, really socked in with a heavy system here, but that is troughing us. That's not tropical. And look at here. You start to see the intertropical convergence zone really try to open up. Western Pacific rainfall amounts here on our European run. Look at this. Yeah, up through South Korea. Seoul area right around 125 millimeters. Japan, it's to the north until about the 18th, 19th. You start to get this surging moisture. But look at the tropics do start to open up here. Look at parts of Taiwan right around the 24th, 25th. Yeah, some of these amounts are close to 500-600 millimeters. Parts of the central Philippines, 300 to 500 millimeters here. So yeah, you get the look at parts just west of Tokyo in Japan. 400 millimeters. So it looks like Japan will be getting a lot more stormy come later September. And here for our Canadian weather outlook, as you can see, we start off kind of quiet, although the West Coast really getting inundated here with this big Pacific system blast as we head through the weekend into, here we go, yeah, the weekend. Middle part of the weekend, showers and thunderstorms through southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Watch out, some of these could be strong. A little low moving through parts of northern New Brunswick and all the way through the Canadian Maritimes, but nothing that big. This is some great news for Alberta. Look at this. Some of this Pacific moisture does make it in all the way to Saskatchewan as well through the 15th. High pressure building into eastern Canada, but look at this parade of Pacific moist flow just blasting here into western and northwestern British Columbia. This low tries to wind up across Hudson Bay, keeps most of the areas dry except for central and eastern Ontario, where it drags a cold front through at this point. You can see blasting southward towards southern Quebec and New Brunswick here. High pressure building in behind it. A very fast moving flow pattern here. You can see Canada up through Saskatchewan area. This area from Alberta, that's some good rain there. So let's hope we can hold this forecast true. As we go all the way through the 20th, you can see all this trying to spin up here. And let's see if we can get this to load a little bit more here. I thought it was going to load. Here we go. So it's kind of stuck on the 21st here. So here's our last day. Showers and thunderstorms moving through parts of Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec. And going out just a little bit further here, we can see through the 22nd. Yeah, this is some big storminess here in Western Ontario, British Columbia as well. These low pressures really kicking across the area. Outside these two main systems, though, look at this high pressure across eastern Canada and the central prairies. And our Canadian rainfall amounts here, yeah, it starts out pretty dry. West Coast getting inundated here, but look at the southern prairies out here. Eventually, towards the end of the month, eastern Canada gets in on this United States storm track. Over 125 millimeters. Even some parts of New Brunswick here, southern Quebec looks pretty dry, and Nova Scotia as well. Look at southern Manitoba, Saskatchewan here, southwestern Ontario. You could see some severe weather here. Some areas approaching 125 millimeters. West Coast really getting socked here, though, with these Pacific systems, over 150, 200 millimeters. So starting off with temperatures here, yeah, this is a heat wave developing out here. Thankfully, it doesn't look like it's going to affect the lakes in the northeast here in Ohio River Valley. Mainly 70s and low to mid 80s. Into Saturday, look at a beautiful weekend shaping up in this region. Yeah, the heat is on. Iowa down through Missouri and the Gulf Coast area. 90s bubbling up here into Sunday. Look at this. Yeah, very nice here across the Northeast. 80s creeping up here into parts of the Carolinas and Virginia. 90s pushing into Indiana here. So it's getting really hot for this time of year into Monday. Look at central and southern Ohio cracking 90, 88 in Pittsburgh, but then we trail off pretty fast up here into the northeast where we see temperatures dropping into the 70s. So there's going to be some kind of baroclinic zone in here. You can see a temperature difference setting up. That means there may be some, we're grasping for straws here, maybe some storminess somewhere. We'll take a look through Wednesday, September 17th. Pretty much no change in temperatures. Standard forecast from hometown viewers, Binghamton, Scranton's Upper Susquehanna River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Hey, yeah, look at this. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. all through the middle of next week. It's sunny every day, and it's such an easy forecast. Upper 70s to near 80. Look at those overnight lows. Good sleeping weather, upper 40s to right around 50. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, super thanks. You can smash that super thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone. Share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.